We are on now, comrades. Welcome.
Oh yeah, I see it.
Thank you for hanging out with us and cracking open a cold one. I'd like to introduce. We got a few people with us here. Go ahead and introduce yourselves, Stephen.
Alright, how are you guys doing today?
What's up, man? Glad to have you back, brother,
What up?
for another
Thanks,
one.
man.
And we got Harold with us
Oh,
today.
hi.
Always
First
glad to
time,
be here.
I'm sure. I hope of many times for cracking open a cold one, at
Yeah,
least.
I'm
Uh,
gonna see if I can join this pretty often.
Yeah, I hope
I'm
so, man. I'm glad
really
you
open to the idea.
expressed
Just
some interest.
hanging out and discussing
Yeah.
whatever. Really,
So,
it doesn't matter what.
yeah, I guess my whole basic premise and idea for the whole segment was to just maybe, come online and chat about things that you got on your mind or whatever, whether personal, whatever. I mean, we're not going to get on any hardcore specific topic and concentrate it, but we might get there. Who knows?
Well,
The whole
I mean,
point of this whole thing is to just hang out,
if
crack open a cold one after work, and maybe talk about what we got on our mind.
yeah,
If
I
it,
mean,
no matter what it is, basically. So,
yeah.
um,
Well, if it's gonna be anything like the last voice chat we did, I got no reason to complain.
oh yeah,
It was great,
yeah,
and
for
we
sure.
tested some really good material.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. You know, we were saying, and before we went live, I was all stressed out that today, like, I was gonna lose my fucking job because I missed yesterday,
Yeah.
and God, man, like, and it, like, it kept me, and like, you miss a day and you realize that it's affecting your job, and it affects you,
Yeah, I get it.
and so like it affected like my like I didn't sleep at all last night or anything like that. But so like these are, I mean, it's just an example of just like the everyday sort of uh fear that somebody has to live with is constantly the fear of whether or not you have your livelihood, and the fear of whether or not you can feed your family.
Yeah.
And that's essentially what the
Well,
what the capitalists holds over your head, is they hold
yeah,
that
exactly. And,
over you, and they of course, the goal in a capitalist economy isn't to eliminate uh, unemployment. If
no, they
I
need
mean, no, it's
unemployment.
quite the opposite. We need quite a big pool of
No, they,
Unemployed workers.
unemployed eager labor to take over your fucking job, so we can hold
Yeah.
that over your head.
yeah,
I mean, you might think you're something, but you know what? This guy here, he's fucking been eating out of a fucking dumpster for the past 2 weeks, and
yeah.
he's ready for a fucking job. I mean, that's essentially
He's ready
what.
to get exploited.
What? Oh
He
yeah,
doesn't
right.
care
For
anymore.
money, right?
He just needs it.
Yeah, and so that's essentially what we've got. Um, so yeah, that made me think about that somewhat today. Um, is the just having the, and I mean that's I mean,
How
even
scary?
like, well, no, well, I guess what I'm trying to say and what I'm trying to pinpoint is, um, even if you're not a even if you're not a Marxist, right? Even if you're
Yeah,
not a communist, once
Right.
something happens, there's something that happens when your employer says to you, "You're terminated."
yeah,
hmm
Something happens
absolutely.
there. When your employer says you're fired, something happens, and 99.99% of people, they can't articulate what that feeling really is, right? We know what it is because we're communists, right? We know what it is because we're Marxists. And we know that that shit is built into the system. And we know that that fundamental feeling is really the roots of revolution.
Yeah,
If we really want to think deeply about it, the roots of revolution are built under that feeling a person in a capitalist system feels when they're told you're fired, you're no longer needed, right?
Feeling of
That's a
nothingness
feeling.
and
I
no
mean, like,
security.
and I think back, and it's kind of funny because like I've worked so many different. I mean, oh wow, like I've been a loan officer for Wells Fargo. I've worked for publishing companies. I've worked for production companies. I've worked for in all different facets of the workplace, right? I've been behind a desk. I've swung a hammer, and I found throughout my experience, and as far as my own personal happiness, as far as what I like to do on a day to day, isn't behind a desk. It's it's actually building things.
Yeah,
And that's something that to me, I mean, I build, I help build homes. Essentially, I work for a major home builder, a premier home builder that's really just blowing up as of late on the East Coast of the U.S. And really, it's a crazy thing to see that shit. You know what I mean?
yeah, I get it. Well,
but
that's the human nature of not wanting, of only thinking for your own benefit, right?
yeah, I mean, yeah, the whole human nature.
Am I right?
Oh
Jesus
yeah.
Christ.
Oh yeah, the
It has
human
to be the
nature
worst
argument. I've
argument
seen it
ever.
today, so let's talk about it.
Yeah, I know.
Let's talk about it.
I
Let's
see
talk
it
about the
every day,
human
really.
nature argument. And there's certain exceptions, and they're totally they're not the rule. And I understand how people can easily be like, "Oh, Jason, you're full of shit," when you say that pre-existing societies up until the point of feudalism
Yeah.
or primitive
Well,
communism. Well,
actually,
that's not entirely true. Even though
at
you
the
had the
time,
Greeks, you had the Romans, those were slave societies, but they were not, I mean, they were not absolute, and they were not natives. They were not any sort of native society in any sort of, I don't know how to describe it. You had many, I guess, I mean, not native, but indigenous societies throughout the world that still adhered to that, despite what the Greeks were
yeah,
fucking doing, what the
absolutely.
Romans were doing. I mean, and that's like to say that, like a lot of people, like, I mean, believe it or not,
Yeah,
Rome didn't own everything. I mean, they
yeah,
got,
I know
you know
that.
what I mean?
But yeah, it's absolutely true that for a large part of human history, we've lived in, well, primitive communism, essentially, as it's been called. It's not really communism, but it's pretty close to it.
Oh, I
And
mean, yeah, essentially.
well,
I mean,
and this, I mean, even in the time of Ayn Rand, people have pretty consistently been able to prove that it was all bullshit. That human nature is competitive, or just only competitive. It's just not true.
right.
Uh,
Well, when did you say that idea of human nature being very competitive just rises strictly out of capitalism?
Yeah,
You know, I mean,
it's
That's a
well,
very good
that's
point. Um,
the
because that was never an argument back in feudal
I mean,
times
yeah,
or
I mean
slave
that's just
that.
times.
it. That's a fantastic point. Harold, go ahead. I know you were ready to jump on that. Go
Uh, I think I forgot what I was
ahead.
trying to
It's all
say.
right. But
My
no,
bad,
Uh,
man.
but what I was going on before, even you know, when even the time of like the peak of social Darwinism, people
Hmm.
already knew that it was bullshit. I mean, scientists could just prove it. They just went to places where there was still primitive communism going on, and
right,
they showed that uh, humans weren't inherently competitive.
right,
And then the social Darwinists essentially just tried to rationalize it through pseudoscience. Essentially, they just said, "Well, it has to be true, uh, so this has to be wrong," even though there was absolutely no reason to.
right. I follow you.
And I mean, that's kind of it's kind of funny that people keep bringing up the human nature argument because
You know, it's
it's
so
just fucking
laughable.
semantics and well, to be honest, that's
I
usually
mean, it's
all
what is
all
funny
people
is
have.
when fucking ANCAPs bring up the human nature argument. It's just like, what the fuck? Like, did what is it? Mad Max Beyond the Thunderdome? Is that your human nature, motherfucker? I mean, that's a movie, and that's like your human nature, like for real. I
Yeah,
mean, like literally. I mean, that's what we're fucking talking about. I mean, human nature. I mean, you want to talk about human nature? I mean, think about the people that we've tried desperately to extinct for the past 200 years, the Native Americans. Think about those people, all those different tribes, all those native peoples with their native languages. Um, uh, where I'm from, I mean, there were the Iroquois, the Mohawk, all kinds of different tribes all around us,
Mhm.
and even so you have people today question that European settlers killed millions of them. I mean, are you out of your fucking mind, bro? Like, yeah, I mean they eradicated fucking, and I still don't entirely and get that. I mean, I don't understand if that was
well,
due like
I guess
I mean, I mean, I know the
I guess it's
historical.
hard to believe that you're responsible for what is essentially the largest genocide in history.
Yeah, I mean that's
I mean, sure, it wasn't really a
yeah.
genocide,
I
but
mean, yeah, you
it was
kind of
just
well, it was. Let's
well,
not
they
be.
didn't really, it's like the Armenian genocide when you say that it's not one. I mean, yeah, no, there was no real. They didn't come there with the idea we're going to eradicate all these people. They
Right.
just
They just
uh,
went
they
there.
just did it.
Right.
It just happened. It's so technically speaking, it's not genocide, but the results are just the same. Uh, in the end,
I have a
it's
question. Oh, my bad.
one of the biggest, well, mass slaughter of a people that has occurred in history, really. And well, together with what the Spanish did, of course,
Right.
and is that's they also killed a lot of people in South America, for example.
Oh yeah.
But it's actually it's both colonialism, right?
Well, yeah.
Essentially,
That's essentially what it is. Um,
a certain kind of well, no, more imperialism. Uh, the
yeah.
idea
I
that
mean, or
civilizing the world, that somehow there's some sort of, I don't remember what it's called, but it's the notion that you have some sort of divine that you'd have
Manifest
you're, like,
destiny.
superior. Yeah, it's
Manifest
essentially
destiny.
that. Yeah.
Essentially.
Uh,
And it today. Well, it used to mean manifest destiny used to mean that we were meant to have America. Essentially, is what it is what
yeah.
it meant. But now that's a whole new thing. Americans, and people in the USA, there's no right to claim any sort of nationalism whatsoever. As at this point, we're nothing but an international terrorist, and that's what we're here to fight, essentially, and
Yeah.
help people understand that there is no claim to American nationalism. You cannot claim American as a nation when we're essentially molesting nations
Yeah.
everywhere around the world and imposing our will upon poor people everywhere, and in helping terrorists like Saudi Arabia and Israel
Yeah.
oppress poor people in the world. We're not. We're slaves because of that. We're slaves. Those people are. I mean, that's just it. I mean, it's the working class that is enslaved because of this. It's our money, our surplus value.
Yeah. Well,
Our surplus value goes to fund
yeah, and it's not
anybody.
just, and there's a big part that people forget generally, that is, it's not just the surplus value that they take when they don't pay you what you earn, but it's also what they take from you from the money that you do earn,
Right.
because you're also paying a lot of surplus value for this, for, well, essentially things that don't have to cost as much. I mean, so it's really, they're fucking you in more ways than one. At the end of the day, you get, yeah.
Yeah,
Jason,
I hear you.
what was going on?
No,
Well,
I hear you.
and essentially, yeah, they you're not just a wage slave, but you're also essentially forced to buy from them because you don't have anywhere else to go.
Yeah, there's
Usually,
no choice.
you don't really have a choice about where you spend your money. And I mean, there was a time where that was a lot more blatant, when they just paid you in, at least for where they would say, like, we pay for a very large part in vouchers that you can only spend at our store. And, well,
Oh
that's
yeah.
illegal now, but
We had
it's,
that a lot.
yeah,
We had that a
the
lot in
US
West
had that a
Virginia.
lot.
We had that a lot in. Actually, there's a great history of coal miner uprising and revolution in West Virginia.
Yeah.
You had a lot. I mean, West Virginia, by and large, I'm on the Eastern Panhandle, so I don't understand aesthetically, essentially, because I'm so far away. I mean, like, I'm literally like fucking 6 hours away from the heart of West Virginia,
Yeah.
which is like deep down in the heart. Um, but I've been down there. I mean, I've been down there, and I can tell you, it's an economically depressed place, and there's nothing. There's people there that need hope. They need a place to go. They need a job.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, West Virginia produces an extraordinary amount of cannabis per like tonnage per year, illegally, because it's not legal in any way in our state. So that means we lose revenue. That means we lose everything. That means we stay the fourth poorest state in the union, if not the poorest by now. I don't know. Well, we are literally 90 minutes away from DC. I mean, at least, I mean, I'm 60 minutes away from DC.
Yeah.
And Baltimore, both. Where
Well, I suppose I don't really have much of this because, you know, the Netherlands is such a small country, and well, in the state it is in now, you don't really have too much to worry about most of the time, at least. And
so, I mean, and
really
that's,
feels
I
different.
guess, Harold, you know what? This brings to question something I've had on my mind lately. So, you're in the Netherlands.
Yes.
I'm in America. The material conditions are quite a bit different. If we're going to compare them at face value, if we're going to look at things for how they are and what we have, things like and the Netherlands is essentially a social welfare state, right?
Yeah. Well, sort of. Yeah.
Welfare is a bad word in America.
Well,
But
it is here too,
well,
in a
and
certain way.
you know, and if I analyze that, if I think about that for a minute, I can understand it.
Well, it's
Because it's pacification. It's
yeah,
keeping you
and it's
pacified, and it's keeping you complicit and
yeah,
happy and healthy. I mean, that's what it's there to do. That's why social democracies, you know, aren't waving a red flag with a hammer and fucking sickle. And
no, you
that's
don't
why I
fucking
tell
have
people,
it.
and that's why I tell people, like, you
It's
know what?
fucking terrible.
Jeremy Corbyn isn't the fucking answer. You know what? Maybe he could have been in a
Yeah,
certain universe.
but yeah,
But
I
you know
don't
what?
know.
Right now, you know, and I've liked I like Jeremy.
I still do
I'll get
like
this
him,
out of the way. I
but
do like Jeremy Corbyn. I do like him a lot, but
yeah,
he needs to lose.
yeah, he really does.
Why did? Okay, well, let's ask ourselves.
As much as I would,
Let's ask ourselves. Really, let's really be honest with ourselves. Why does Jeremy Corbyn need to lose? Well, I'll tell you fucking why Jeremy Corbyn needs to lose. Because you know what? If he wins, I'll tell you what happens if he wins. The entire left, anybody that fucking, even an edgy liberal, would fucking take a nap and say, fuck it, we got it. We got our
yeah.
man. You know, that's what would happen.
Well,
And
it's not just that. The problem is that I keep seeing this on you know, on Facebook and social media and things. The people who are just like, yeah, well, it's a step in the right direction. What do you want us to do? Do you want us to, you know, make our living conditions even worse by voting for the
yes,
other guy?
yes,
Well, the problem is they seem to think that it's some sort of temporary solution,
yeah,
but it's
exactly.
bullshit. The only thing they're doing is just perpetuating
Putting a band-aid
the
on
fucking
it.
capitalist system. It just, I mean, they're talking about, well, it's the strongest the Labor Party's been in 40 years. Yeah, well, 40 fucking years ago, it was just as strong. And look
Right.
what
Well, the whole
happened.
problem is now
And
is
I
like
mean,
Corbyn is basically just an edgy figurehead for the Labor Party. Let's
yeah,
be real about it. I mean, people call him Comrade Corbyn. He's not a fucking comrade, bro. He's not. He supports giving money to Saudi Arabia. He supports giving money to Israel. He supports the apartheid state that is Israel. He supports all that shit. He supports NATO. He supports all that fucking shit. Like, you can't even pretend. Like, all you're doing is you're pining and you're pleading for a kinder and gentler slave master. That's really
what it is.
Really what you're doing. And it's kind of pathetic.
Doesn't fucking work.
It's really pathetic when you see people who you think are your comrades. Oh, did you hear that? Did you hear that? I heard that. Fucking dude, I need to record that sound, dude. That's just fucking hero.
Well, putting in a bigger welfare state, it's not going to get rid of the contradictions that rise out of capitalism.
It makes it worse, really. Usually.
Well, right. Yeah, that's the whole thing. Social welfare.
Well, because it makes people very complacent.
Well, right.
With their shitty material conditions.
I have everything I need. Right,
well, but in a certain way, social democracy.
Right, it makes you forget about the bourgeoisie. Right.
It makes you forget about the people in the third world that America exploits on a daily basis.
Well, no, it doesn't do that. It, in fact, does quite the opposite. It makes people only care about those, and you see that a lot here in Europe, in Germany. In a lot of welfare states. All people care about is like the refugees we have coming in, and I know it's a problem, but it's far from the biggest problem we have right now. But it's really all people care about at this point, because as far as internal politics goes, they just can't be fucked to do anything about it. They fucking raised retirement ages by 2 years, and they're gonna add another 3 years on top of it, so total of 5 years. And no one took to the streets. There was fucking nothing. Guys, are you still there? Oh, for fuck's sake.
That doesn't really surprise me. I mean,
and at the same time, also, when they abolished essentially college tuition, the same shit, and that's fucking students. You expect at least some fucking outrage, but no, there's just fucking nothing. No one. I mean, social democracy absolutely destroys any kind of collective movement. And what's even worse is a certain law they have here that you don't have to be a member of a union, but even if you're not a member of a union, you still get the benefits from being a member of a union. So union membership is just absolute shit.
Right. Well, that's because
it's been a while back that they did that, and since then, union membership has dropped. It's just become tiny, and now there's nothing. You can't go on strike anymore because it just doesn't work when 90% of the company isn't associated with any union.
So God damn, I wish I would have had you on for that, for the union episode. But no, it's
just a small contribution.
That's part of what I'm talking about is
just
like where you're at in the Netherlands is like being in a union or like being in a co-op. It's sort of standard, right? Like, but here, like, dude, like in America, like Comrade Steve, he fucking dude worked a 37-hour shift.
Yeah, that doesn't.
Like 37 hours, dude. Like I've done 18 myself.
That can't happen here. Like, it just fucking doesn't.
Like I've done 18 hours.
That could kill you, dude.
On my right. I mean, there's a certain point. I mean, That's why safety.
Yeah.
You know, yeah. I mean,
But
there's a certain point
it's
where after a
it's
certain
fun.
amount of hours
It's
you're working, that you can
in a
die
certain respect, it's
doing
funny
your job.
because it shows just how bad. To me, it shows how bad capitalism is when all those safety nets aren't in place.
Right.
It's just an
Um,
absolute fucking shit show. And even in the U.S., there's certain things that use certain guarantees that you have, and it's but you know if the bourgeoisie had the chance, they just really fucking milk you for all you had, even though it doesn't fucking work, even for them, because eventually you run out of money to extract from people that don't get paid.
Right.
Another nice fucking contradiction in capitalism.
oh
And
my god.
that's why they're exporting all those jobs, you know?
So what else do we
Just make
talk
it,
about? Fuck. Peter Wood's left book.
oh, Jesus Christ. Fuck
Dude,
off, man.
I've made a part-time career out of memeing the guy.
Yeah. I know it. Yeah. I can't believe that guy.
That's my work, by the
He's
way.
one of the most
Guy.
interesting people
I think
that
he's
I've
a
come
cop.
across
I
so
mean,
I think
far.
he's a cop.
I mean,
Really.
him
Or
and John
if he's even
Hillstrom.
real.
John Hillstrom, I'm like 100% sure he's a troll at this point. I mean,
Oh man,
shit he says, it's just
you'd have to
bullshit.
dedicate your whole life,
Dude,
yeah,
they
to
might
that.
be really, I mean, how are they not cops? I mean,
Yeah, exactly.
I don't really know.
I mean, but that fucking guy, they're always fucking contradicting themselves. You
Dude,
know,
it's
at one point,
ridiculous.
Yeah,
at
on a
one moment
daily.
they're telling me that fucking dialectic materialism is either boring, or they tell me that it's fucking uh, fucking pseudoscience or whatever. And the other moment they're criticizing Marxist-Leninists and saying that they don't follow it. It really doesn't make any fucking sense.
Oh, dude, the most latest post from Peter Woods is Marxist-Leninists are just really social democrats. He's fucking crazy, dude.
Yeah. About as fucking far as you can be from one, but
Yeah, exactly.
oh, Jesus Christ.
He is. He's
I
the
mean,
ultimate
at this
troll.
point, social democrats, I'm pretty sure, are a bigger enemy than even fucking capitalists. Because
They're-
I
I
mean,
would.
if
I
you
would
let
they're
capitalists have their
disgusting.
if you let the capitalists have their way, there's gonna be a revolution. If you let the social democrats have their way, there isn't. There's just gonna be more capitalism.
right. Right.
I mean,
Yeah. Well, that's a
sure.
big reason why we're all glad Bernie Sanders never got elected. Because that would have
Yeah.
ultimately have made everybody complacent with capitalism.
Well, I mean, fuck me.
That would it would have quieted any criticism that that would have come
Yeah,
from the left.
and that's what it always does, and that's why
Yep.
And that's why
and that's why you always see that
communism
left parties win one election, and then it's followed by a few decades of
and that's
right
what
wing
people don't
just
get.
breaking it down again.
I made that
Right.
fucking post. I made that fucking post on DC9, and
Yeah,
just a bunch of fucking liberal shitting all over it. You know what? You don't understand what it takes to fucking make a revolution. You don't get it. You read a fucking book, and you don't really understand what it
yeah.
takes to fucking make a revolution. I mean,
I mean, I don't even know at this point. It's
it
difficult.
it doesn't
If
happen when everybody's living high on the hog,
I
believe it
mean,
or
in my
not.
country,
Yeah.
it's
Exactly.
Believe it or not, when everybody's fucking eating a 3-piece fucking 4-course fucking meal, it doesn't happen.
Oh.
Color me fucking blind. I mean, but
yeah,
it doesn't happen that way. It happens because shit is fucking stripped away from you. It happens
Yeah,
because
exactly.
people fucking
And
die.
that's
And it, because
another problem.
that's the
A lot
problem.
of people
The problem
seem
is,
to think.
well, that's the problem though, Harold, is the difference. The difference and the problem of people dying in the first world and dying in the third world. I mean,
Yeah.
when people go hungry in the first world, then oh fuck, we got a problem.
Yeah.
We got
I
a
mean,
fucking problem
you
now.
saw it in the British elections, right?
Right.
Oh, it's a fucking person on my friends list telling me that, yeah, I'm gonna vote for him because otherwise I'm letting little children starve and killing disabled
You know
old
what?
people or something. Some bullshit like that.
Yeah.
No, that's not what you're doing. I mean, well, it sort of is, but it's what you're doing either way.
Well, yeah.
So
I
stop
mean,
being such a fucking cunt
Sorry.
about it.
I mean, I want the left in Britain to actually unite and care.
Yeah.
So even though I like Corbyn, I do really like Corbyn, but I don't want him to win. I want him to lose. I really do. I want a
Well,
revolution.
I gotta say,
I don't
it's
want
it's been a
neoliberal
really good
incrementalism.
development. It's been a really good development that he's grown so much in the polls.
Just like Bernie did.
But
It ain't no different. I mean,
but
it's
I don't want him to win.
right.
Because in the end, whenever a party like that wins, it just puts you back another fucking 5 decades, and you're just gonna get the same shit of conservative parties taking away your social services, and then you get the same shit over and over. And that's what the capitalists want,
Exactly.
really. They just try to make sure they don't have to give you uh, those basic requirements, essentially.
Right.
So they just try to do it as as little as possible. But at the end of the day, it's just the same shit over and over.
Right.
You know, let's say as
Yeah. But
as
what I'm
Lenin
hoping
said. Oh, sorry. Go on.
what I'm hoping for, and what I think most of us are hoping for, is that now that communism isn't so much of a direct threat anymore, with the Soviet Union being gone, that they're gonna overplay their hand, that they're gonna take it a bit too far, that they're going, just a little bit further down the path of capitalism than they should.
Right. I mean,
For their own safety.
I really want to get Daniel Zemulyanov on here on the Prolecast. He's a Russian and a member of the Russian Communist Party. I'm not sure of which Russian Communist Party he's a member of, but I want to get him on, and I want to talk to him. I want to get a Russian.
The big Russian party? Is it from the big Communist Party in Russia, or is it from some other party? Or do you not know
There's
that?
several. I'm not honestly sure of which party he's a member of, but he's a contributing member of the VPP, and he's a comrade as far as I'm concerned. He's helped a lot with a lot of translations.
Yeah, that's
In the
really
group,
useful.
as far as you guys know me. I'm not about memes. I'm about history. I want you to learn
I'm
Russian.
not about memes either,
I
but
want you to learn Russian history, and I want you to learn communist history from the root, from the source.
yeah, absolutely.
I want you to pick it up every day, and I try and share a little bit every day, and I learn something every day. I try to.
Well, so do I. I mean, I read a lot lately. I've been really picking up on my reading, and it really helps.
And I mean,
And
like
it's
that's
a
just
lot of
it.
fun.
We share it all with each other, and I mean, you know, I mean, I still got a link pinned that you hit me with, Harold, for Hoha that I'm
Yeah.
gonna read. And yeah, man, I'm stoked about that. I mean, I got that fucker waiting. But yeah, man, I mean, that's what it's about, man. I mean, we share and exchange ideas and help each other out.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the kind of pro shit that we do.
But at the end of the day, with the problem I'm seeing today or nowadays is just there's too many people who think um, that they can change the world from the fucking voting booth, and
Oh
it
yeah,
just doesn't work. And
yeah,
it's proven that it doesn't work because I mean we
yeah.
have all this welfare, we have all this whole fucking welfare system in the Netherlands, and just for I don't know what is it 30 years straight they've been breaking it down slowly because if you break it down too much, if you do it too fast, the left's gonna get the majority again. So they
Right.
do it slowly. Uh,
I hear you.
but eventually, it's just gonna be the same shit. I mean, the time hasn't come here. This year we had the election, and the Conservatives won again, essentially. So, that's gonna be great. Uh, but
That is
yeah,
good.
if the left wins,
That
it
is
doesn't
good,
change
Harold.
anything. It's just the same shit over and over again.
Are there any fucking communists in the Netherlands?
There's
Are is there
very
5?
little. I
Are
don't.
there 5 people that would call themselves communists?
Well,
God
that would call
damn, dude.
themselves communist. I'm sure there's quite a lot,
I
but that's
mean,
not really
dude,
what we're
I'm in
looking for.
America
I'm
right
pretty
now.
sure Peter Woods calls himself a communist.
That's kind of funny. Um, I'd love to see Peter Woods work a day where I work and
Dude,
actually understand labor and what it means to work and feel labor theory value
Yeah,
and
what
actually
was it
fucking
Peter
feel it.
Woods that said that the working class doesn't understand the labor theory of value?
Oh yeah, yeah. That was
It's fucking
just
ridiculous.
beautiful.
It's fucking daily reality
Oh my
for the
god,
working
man!
class. It's
I need to
it's
meme
the
that.
fucking easiest thing to grasp for the working class.
I need to meme that for sure.
I'm not sure if it was him or someone else that said that.
It could have been one of his
It could have
surrogates.
easily been him because
Oh,
it
easy.
would be the kind of bullshit he'd say. But I'm not sure if it was him or just someone else, some other liberal.
All right.
No, I'm pretty sure it wasn't him. Now that I think about it, it was.
So what else? What else is on the list? So, I mean, I've been listening to more electronic music at work as opposed to hip hop.
Mm-hmm.
Keeps me going.
Yeah, whatever keeps you going, it's good. I myself, I
Reminds me
listen
to
to a
do
lot
it
of music, but
a lot,
uh,
actually.
you
What kind of
know,
music do you listen to, Harold?
oh well. Recently, I've been listening to a lot of Attila the Stockbroker. It's just a lot of fun.
What kind of music is that? I don't think I've ever heard of him.
It's like
Something with
rock.
stockbroker in it. I mean, I just stopped hearing that.
Just look it up. You'll get it.
For
I
sure.
mean, God damn, dude. It don't sound like pro shit. I'll be honest
Well,
with
well,
you.
it's definitely bullshit.
Damn.
I believe you, bro. I believe you. I totally.
I mean, the man made the man made a song praising Hoja. How much more pro can you get?
That sounds like fire.
What about in today's society, you know, the music
Oh,
that they have that, you know, like a lot of it that's produced. Wouldn't you say that like it doesn't have like maybe like good messages behind it? Like it's,
oh, that's
you know, it's
kind of
it what's up?
that's kind of got to do a lot with that. I'm communist. Essentially, the messages are all fucking terrible. Most of them, at
Right.
least. If you look at what's, it's. I mean, the only sort of positive
Essentially,
things
it's
are about.
capitalism.
Yeah, well, the only sort of positive things you see in music are like about emancipation of some fucking minority, uh, instead of actual fucking change.
Right.
I mean, it's great that, I mean, I understand that minorities don't like being exploited more than others, but or oppressed more than others. But at the end of the day, the whole fucking it all links back to the fucking Ivy poll, right?
Hmm.
It's just
Most
uh,
definitely, dude.
it's just the idea that
Liberalism.
if you're it eventually leads to the idea that, you know, when you're fucking white and you talk, they don't fucking listen to you because you're white, or they don't
Mhm.
listen to you because you're fucking cisgendered or some bullshit. And that's not how you achieve equality. I'm sorry.
Nope.
That's not how you
Exactly,
achieve
dude.
true equality. You don't do that by saying, I'm gonna listen to this guy. This guy's opinion is more important. That's not how it works. And sure, you should take special consideration for those groups, but the way the struggle is fought right now, it's just, well, it really feels like it's a fucking capitalist plot. You
Yeah.
know, it's just fucking make everyone fight about race and gender and all that, and you know, you know, and all those kinds of equality, but never fucking touch on the equality of, you know, all people, because we can't have that.
Yeah, exactly.
And then
Like
and
goes against the
it's just
bourgeois
so terrible
status
in the
quo.
left to hear people call you a class reductionist, and it's like, well, what the
Oh,
fuck is
you're a
the point
Marxist.
of calling yourself left if
Right.
you essentially say that class isn't fucking what you should focus on?
You're being
I
a
mean,
class reductionist. That's what
yeah,
you're applying material analysis. I got a problem with
Disgusting.
that.
can't
Big
have that.
problem. Big problem I got. How you
Yeah.
do that?
I mean, and it's just you really you get called a class reductionist even though you quite, you know, really acknowledge that, for example, you know, the struggle for equality of black people is quite important, really. But um,
Right.
unless you fucking throw
I thought
everything else
about
aside to,
taking it black
to
churches.
I mean, unless you fucking throw everything aside to wear some fucking to tie yourself to a tree and and have some fucking shit like "I'm sorry for being white" written on your chest. Uh, that's not a fucking solution. That just makes it worse. It makes work. I mean, it's what I think. That's what pushes working class people to the right now. It's just this bullshit. They can't deal with that. I mean, how bad is it if you're fucking struggling, if you're doing a fucking 37-hour shift just so you can feed your family, and some fucking liberal piece of shit sipping on some fucking latte or something, comes up to you as privileged.
Yeah,
I mean, if
exactly.
someone, I don't know, man.
No, you're right, dude. It's the Ida pool, dude, and that's what driven a lot of American workers to the right.
It's
Is exactly
especially
that.
for the poor. It's just terrible. And sure, for black people, it might feel like a way out, but it's not, because eventually they're, instead of being the majority, they turn themselves into a minority. You know, for if
Right.
yeah, it's just more. It's like fucking left unity, really. We want fucking left unity, but at the end of the day, it's. I mean, what would left unity mean if you put it into practice?
No idea, because
I mean, it
just
would definitely mean not having a revolution, because a part of the left would disagree with that. What would it mean? Only focusing on your common values. Yeah,
I
that
felt I
you
felt
get
like left
ideal.
unity would contradict itself, to be honest with you.
Yeah, exactly. It's one big fucking contradiction.
Yeah.
Because because I mean, look at fucking social democrats and Euro communists. What do we
Right.
have in common
Fucking
with them
Democrats.
other than words?
Yeah. No, straight up. It's true. Yeah, that's why I would say left unity is a joke, and that's why we focus on working class unity.
Yeah, and I mean, eventually there is a genuine uh, need. There are genuine things that are beneficial for the working class as a whole, or well,
Mm.
not as a whole, but the always for, if well, the working class taken as a whole, it will always be beneficial. And sure, there might be a small amount of cases where it's not beneficial to an individual, but most of the time it's also beneficial to the individual. And that's really the idea of socialism. Once you make everyone equal in material conditions, at that point, um, everyone's needs will also be the same. So it should be really easy to uh, to find out what the people need, because they all have pretty much the same, so they all need pretty much the same.
Well, all human beings need, you know. I'd say, their mode to do anything is
One
for
of the first things
survival.
you need is just
Everyone needs
job
to be housed
security,
and fed.
really.
You said
Everyone
job
needs to
security?
everyone needs to be able to know that they can have a job, and that if and everyone if everyone has a job and is shouldn't be afraid of losing that job, and if everyone with his job can provide for his family,
Right.
then that takes away a lot of worries for the working class. I mean, even if the working class could get what was it, fucking 4 course meals every day, um, you know, something discussed earlier, but which is what the social democrats essentially try to achieve. Even if that happens, and at that point you lose your job, there's always going to be a fear of losing your job. You're never going to be just as well off if you don't have a job, because at that
Right.
point there's no longer an incentive to work, and that's detrimental to capitalism. Especially the more alienation you get, the more likely people are willing to say, well, fuck it, I'm not working, I'm just gonna get
Collect
welfare.
welfare or something. Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
at that point.
Yeah.
So you can't have that in capitalism, because, well, while people are always talking about how there is no incentive to work in communism, there really is no incentive to work in welfare capitalism.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, if there's no longer the fear of in like full welfare capitalism where if you lose your job you get like full pay and everything, there's very little incentive at that point. But that's why you always get a lot less when you're on welfare.
Yes.
So that it's still sort of necessary to get back to work. I mean, nobody enjoys 40 hours a week uh, being exploited and having no say in what you do.
Of
And sure,
course.
you can enjoy your work, of course, but the whole fucking relations of production, no one likes that. None of the working class like the relations of production you have in your job. The fact that you are essentially someone's slave and you're at their mercy for work.
Yeah, and exactly, and that you could be fired, any second. You do anything. It's, it's not a healthy way to live, your life, period.
Jesus Christ. For cracking open a cold one, this episode's pretty depressing. We're not we're not being very positive.
That's all right. Is Jason still here with us?
I don't know.
Huh.
He's supposed to be here, but I haven't heard him in a while.
Yeah, I haven't heard him either. Interesting. I lost connection with us a little earlier.
Yeah, that's true. I'll see. I'll open up Facebook. Maybe he's written something there. Have a quick look.
Sure.
We're still live though.
Correct. What kind of beer are you drinking tonight, Harold?
I was drinking Heineken. Same that you were
Well,
drinking.
oh, for sure. Hell yeah.
It's really cheap here.
Yeah, it's not too bad here, dude. It's about $3 for a pint.
Yeah, I don't think it's that expensive here.
Oh, damn, it's even cheaper.
I don't know exactly how much a pint is, but I have a pretty good idea.
I'd say it's about like 2 beers, 2.5 beers put together, per se. Do you have anything else on your mind that you would like to discuss?
I don't know. No. I think we lost Jason.
I think we did. I think we can.
Anyway, anything else? I don't know. I really want to know, like, in the U.S., what do you have as far as security goes? For workers.
Well, I would say that really depends on the job, because like say for me, for example, the majority of jobs I can get as of right now is through a temp agency, and
Oh
they don't
yeah,
give you
yeah.
any
You don't get checks.
securities.
We have that here too, by the way.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of
Okay.
people.
Yeah. Okay.
That's something people forget, but people think that everyone here, has right to unemployment or whatever. But a lot of people will work on a temporary contract that just gets renewed every month, and those people don't get any benefits, essentially. And then you have those temporary things
Right.
that you were talking about. Yeah, you have that too. They don't give you any benefits either. Uh,
I would also say in America that it differs state from state because depending on what state you're in, you're gonna have a different set of laws
yeah,
for like working for the workplace and
God
everything
damn
else.
it. That doesn't make things much simpler.
No, not really. But there is a certain like required set of laws by the government, like the federal minimum wage is set at 7.25, I'm pretty sure it is. So
Yeah.
like all states have to provide by that, and
And then
other little
states have their own minimum
details.
wages as well sometimes, I suppose. Or do they
Correct,
not?
correct. No,
Yeah.
they do. Like the state of California, the state I live in, we have a minimum wage at 10.50. But
Yeah.
I've noticed myself, if you go look at more of the South of the country, they
Yeah.
typically stick at the federal minimum wage. It's
Yeah.
typically more red
What's
states
that
with being
shit
right
of
wing.
like tip wages that you have? How does that work?
How what works?
And then you have like the wages where you get like biggest part of your salary is from the tip you get. How does that work? Because I've heard
From
about that, but I don't know
from
how it's.
from the tip you get?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, why are you saying for like certain jobs? Because not every job you're required to tip.
No, I know that, but there's like a. I don't know from who I've heard this, but that's like you get pretty much almost no wages, but you just get the tip. I don't know if they still, or if that only used to be like that in the past.
Yeah,
That
no,
seems kind
I'm
of
not.
strange
Personally, I'm
way
not
to
that sure. I've never
justify
worked
that.
a job where you receive tips. I know that like if you go to tip a person, you have to tip them, a certain amount of money, depending on how much you paid.
Yeah.
But see, that's as far as
Okay.
I go.
No. Okay. But
Yeah.
yeah, one thing I noticed here in the Netherlands is that they very much like to just underpay people. They they do that. There's like
Okay.
what there is a minimum, for, and it also changes depending on your age. And something you see a lot with younger people is that they essentially don't raise it according to the minimum wage. Every year your minimum wage is supposed to rise, and they just don't do it. And if you complain about it, they'll fire you, because at that point you're some young kid. You're not gonna sue them.
Right. You're saying that's how that works out where you're at?
Yeah, it does usually. They keep you on a contract, and
Wait. Yeah.
I mean, I knew a friend who made like $1 below, what would be about $1 below his minimum wage, even though
Well,
uh, that's not supposed to happen.
did you say that your minimum wage is supposed to raise every year out there?
For young people only, for like until you reach like
What's that?
21
What's the
years or something,
age?
23.
Oh, till you're 21.
I don't know exactly what it is, but for younger people, that's a big problem. They always try to pick
That's
people
very
up at very
interesting.
young ages. They get people at 16 to work, and then they try as hard as they can not to raise the salaries from that point on, so that you're essentially underpaying them.
Right.
And it's obviously
Some
illegal, but that doesn't stop them from doing it. Because it's young people, they don't generally know what they can do. They don't know their
right.
rights and shit.
Right. They're just entering the workforce. They're not. I get you.
No, but the idea that when you, I don't know how expensive it is to live in the U.S. really, because here our minimum wage is like what, slightly under 10 euros an hour, and
What would
uh,
that equal to US dollars?
I don't know, maybe 12, something like that. I think
$12?
maybe a little bit more. Um, but
Oh,
then
oh
part of
yeah,
your
it's 11.27.
okay, but then a part of
Yeah,
your,
so pretty,
and then of course a part of your wage goes to taxes. But that's, I suppose that's the same in the U.S.
yeah. Like again, cost of living would differ in the United States,
Yeah, so it's really hard
depending on your
to
state.
measure that.
Yeah, I'll say over here in California, it's very expensive. In New York, it's very expensive. The
Yeah,
cost of living is high. And I
yeah.
don't know
Well,
if that has to
we have
do
regional
with
differences
because we
here
live on the
too with the
coast
cost
or
of
what.
living. I mean, if you go
What'd you say?
way up north here, then it gets a lot cheaper to get a house, for example. So you can pay your rent a lot easier. So that
Yeah.
really does make a big difference because your rent is about half your income usually or more.
Yeah, it's usually about more.
That's that's also funny, right? Because you already have all that,
Utilities
you have all your
and everything
labor
else to
value
pay.
taken from you, and then you have to spend half your salary on
Oh.
rent.
Mm.
Yeah. Well, most of the working class really does make jack shit, right? All
Exactly.
the
No, they
money
get
they
everything
make
stolen
goes
from them.
into sustaining themselves, keeping
Yeah.
themselves fit for creating more surplus value.
Yes, that's it. That's pretty much why we are, slaves.
Yeah.
At the finest point,
But
capitalism just took on a different form of slavery.
yeah, it's the same as serfdom, really. I mean, a
So,
serf wasn't technically a slave, but in practice, it wasn't far from it either.
right, only because he technically wasn't being owned, but yeah,
Yeah,
it still
he he
his
wasn't owned. The
surplus
land he worked on
was
was
still
owned,
being collected.
and he was tied to that land. So
Right.
in practice,
Yeah, no
much of a
freedom there.
difference.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, but serfdom really was more of an in between in that respect because it wasn't like slavery where you know your owner could essentially control every aspect of your life. It was more like you did have some freedoms within that system, but you know where it matters, you're still a slave, and that's what we see now. In the
Uh,
parts where it really matters, you're still a slave. If you wanna if you wanna sustain yourself, you gotta work for the capitalists. You gotta do what they ask you to do.
Exactly. Well, I mean, if you look at, what slavery and feudalism both have in common is that, that it has in common with capitalism is that in all three economic systems, your surplus value is being collected.
Yeah,
So, I mean,
yeah, that is true. your surplus value is just being taken, and all you have left is pretty much the ability to stay alive.
Yeah. Yeah.
And of course,
That's it. That's
this isn't
that's I would
true.
say that's the main mode of I'd say like human nature, you could say, under capitalism, is just trying to survive. If
Yeah,
you're a working class member,
true. And
that's
of course,
why we say socialism is the next phase in human development, because
yeah,
we've now knocked those problems out of the way.
yeah,
And
and of
ending the
course,
contradictions of
many
capitalism.
people tell you that, of course, socialism is slavery because you also have to work essentially. But that's it because yeah, everyone has to work if he wants to sustain himself. But there's a difference
Yeah,
between having to work so that you can sustain yourself or having to work a lot just so that you can get the scraps with which you can sustain yourself. And that's the
yes,
big difference. Um, I mean, if you could live, it's not that in capitalism you can't live off of your labor. It's that in capitalism you could live off your labor if your labor wasn't taken from you and turned into surplus value for the capitalist, essentially.
right.
If well, it's not like really like that. It's more like uh, it wouldn't. I mean, essentially, all the surplus value is taken from you when you buy something, really, because eventually um, you do sort of get paid. Well, because it's it's the capitalist. Your labor value is the same as well, your wages.
Hmm.
Because that's just how it works under capitalism. So essentially, when you buy something, you're forced to buy all that surplus value as well, and then you suddenly can't sustain yourself anymore.
Right. Another contradiction in capitalism.
Well, it's not so much as a contradiction as it's just the way the system works. I mean, the whole system is essentially based on theft, right?
Well, yeah, well, you have
You
to
can
go in
call
and
it a
you have to sell your
contradiction, but
labor.
it's just a reality of capitalism, really.
Right.
I mean, capitalism was built around it. It's not really a contradiction that just occurs because of capitalism. But it's kind of funny, that we have a capitalist crisis every time, and they use it as an excuse to essentially create more capitalism, to make capitalism even more fucking free, so that they can make another crisis that's worse than the last, essentially. Just give them more freedoms so they can fuck it up bigger. And well,
No, yeah,
at the end of the day, it also helps us that they do that. But
not
yeah,
typically is there.
accelerationism is a bit weird, like that. That you essentially every time capitalism, well, you're essentially trying to advance capitalism because capitalism, by its very nature, advances into socialism. So it's not strange that you're trying to, further capitalism because that's how you destroy it.
No, yeah, no, exactly. That's
I mean, it's
well,
the next stage in development, in the human development, as you said.
right.
Um, but you pretty much can't get to it without completing this stage at some point. And yeah, that's done through revolution. But for a revolution, you need to have the right material conditions, of course. and
Right.
those material conditions can only be created by capitalism. And if you try to stop capitalism from, just being the way it's supposed to be, you're just trying to stop it from getting overthrown, essentially.
Yep. Exactly. Well, and that's what I was trying to explain to a certain comrade because they think that that you don't have to have, I guess you could say, real oppressive conditions per se. You know, under capitalism, like of course capitalism is always oppressive, but you can that's why we have welfare and safety nets. They
Yeah.
think that you could keep such a thing like welfare and safety nets, but
You know
that's
that
still
meme?
capable for revolution. And I
Yeah.
try to
You know that meme? Good times create weak men
yeah,
create bad times.
yeah,
It's that cycle, essentially, under capitalism. It's just,
yeah.
yeah, it's just a cycle, really. And that's essentially what people are fighting for. They're actually telling us that we're wrong because that cycle is just perfect. Because they only see the part of the cycle that they like.
Well, yeah, well, that's why capitalism is very individualistic.
Yeah.
They're not looking
And
out for the well of the
also,
masses.
let's not mistake ourselves, it's also one of the most idealist ideologies out there.
Capitalism.
I mean, it's worse than anarchism, really, in many ways. It's like the idea that everything will just fix itself if you just let the market go ahead. And it's been proven wrong so many times by themselves and just keep following the idea.
Yeah.
How many times? I mean, fucking Marx predicted the crisis of overproduction in, what was it, the 1840s.
I would say basically the
And
beginning life of fucking capitalism.
when it just
You
began,
know.
he predicted like a whole fucking
Yeah.
plethora of crises that capitalism would get. And guess what? They always got those. They got those things. It was just, it's, if you just look at capitalism scientifically, yeah, it's meant to fail because it's just so full of contradictions. It can't
Yeah.
sustain itself
Exactly.
in a healthy way, only through violence or um, you know whatever they try, whatever they do to try and revert
Well,
it.
well, I mean, even then, even if they use violence or a welfare state, it still can't sustain itself.
Yeah, it can't really sustain itself. I mean, why are they putting all the are they moving all the production facilities to other countries so that they can make surplus value, so then make more surplus value and eventually they're just going to run out of, well, they can't run out of money anymore because they fixed that problem, but in doing so you're not they're only changing the amount of money, they're not changing the actual labor value and surplus value, so the money becomes worth less. And it's just, there's so many fucking contradictions that all interlink. Sometimes you
Yes.
can't talk about one without talking about a few other contradictions.
Yep.
Um,
Exactly.
I mean, eventually, there was this cartoon
Yeah,
that
yeah. Well,
I shared
what's
it with
that
you.
famous quote? What's that famous quote by Marx? Capitalism creates its own gravedigger,
Yeah,
or something along that context.
I'm not sure what it was really. Wait. Where did I find But yeah, it's essentially, it all comes down to the same problem, that you can't extract surplus value from your workers constantly without. You alright?
Jason, are you there?
No, I don't think he's there.
That's
Anyway, I think I
him coughing.
gotta go now. I think
You have to go.
it's getting pretty late. It's like 3:30 here, and
Oh,
I need to get up
for sure.
tomorrow.
All right,
So
man. Well,
I think we gotta wrap this
thanks for
up.
talking with me on the Procast, man.
Yeah, it was fun.
Yeah, it's good.
I mean, I always enjoy talking with comrades.
Every day, dude. As I say, you always learn something on the podcast.
Yeah. On the first podcast of the kind, right?
Yeah.
Cracking open the cold one. Just throwing
Yeah.
one out there. It was not as good as the procasts, I think, but it was a lot of fun to do.
Yeah. No, this one's really cool. Really fun. It's fun just to discuss, topics off our heads, not always having to
And,
stay to a strict,
we sort of came
topic
full
or
circle at
topics.
the end.
Yeah.
I mean, we
It
pretty much
happens.
started with the big contradiction in capitalism, and that social democracy doesn't fix it. And well, we also ended with it. So, all right, I'll see you.
Capitalism in itself is one big circle jerk.
Yeah, absolutely. But I really gotta get some sleep now.
All right, man. Have a good night.
I'll be talking to you guys tomorrow, I think.
Of course, man.
Bye.
See you in the chat. Have a good night.